Sometimes that's what you need to look at. Is your identity holding you back? And because your identity has changed from when you were 5 to 10 to 15 to 25. So don't be resistant to that. Understand that change is a part of your evolution. And if you want to get better, you need to change. Equally, if you want to get worse, you'll need to change as well.
Welcome, everyone. Today is a conversation I have genuinely been looking forward to. You know, in business, sports, leadership, and life, we often celebrate people who appear strong, independent, and self made. But after working with CEOs, founders, and leaders around the world, I've discovered something interesting. The highest performers are never doing it alone. Athletes have coaches, coaches have coaches, authors have editors, speakers have mentors, CEOs need advisors. The more successful someone becomes, the more they realize that growth is not built through isolation. It's built through relationships, mentorship, coaching, and what I call interdependence. And today's guest embodies that beautifully. Matt Elliott is an international recognized authority on human performance, nervous system regulation, and sustainable leadership. He's a former professional athlete and spent 17 years coaching at the highest levels of rugby as a head coach in both an NRL and English Super League. He is the founder of The Change Room, a two-time best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, and someone who has spent decades helping individuals and organizations perform under pressure without sacrificing well-being. What fascinates me about Matt is that while many people teach performance, Matt teaches sustainable performance. While I'm so excited, while many people teach success, Matt understands what happens behind the success, the pressure, the setbacks, the inner battles, the recovery. And perhaps most importantly, the role coaching and support play in helping people become the best version of themselves. Matt, welcome to the show.
Kristy, thanks so much for having me. And wow, what an introduction. I feel like I might need to do some stretches to make sure I'm going to deliver for you today.
Of course, you are athlete. All right. So before we dive into all the achievements, I'd love everyone to meet the human being behind the bio. Imagine we're sitting together having a coffee, not TEDx talk, not coaching business, no books, no awards. Who is Matt Elliott?
Well, I always start off by saying I'm a dad of four daughters, and that kind of explains a lot of the adversity I've been through life. No, I'm only joking. No, but I'm very proud of my daughters, and I'm actually a granddad now. So it's just something that I take a great deal of pride and pleasure in because all of them are amazing human beings I wish I'd taught them as much as they've taught me, in life. And so that's probably where I'd start. Certainly, I'm very proud of my professional background and the things that I've been able to do since coming out of coaching. But I probably take more pride in the human aspect of things these days and making sure that there's all these cliche words like kindness and authenticity and vulnerability. I've decided to remove them from being cliches and try and live my life, from those very simple but profound words.
Wow, beautiful. Congratulations, by the way, for being a granddad. That is a huge milestone. And what would your closest friends say about you, Matt?
It depends on how long they've known me
Choose
for,
the good
Kristy.
ones.
Look, I've got nothing but good friends, and again, we all go through evolutions in life, and my best friends have known me for a long time, way back since I can't even remember not knowing them, through my university days and things like that. So what would they say about me? Slightly crazy, still crazy, but just crazy in a different way.
Wow, I
So
love that.
I'm only making that up as I go. I hadn't thought of that too much, but yeah, I'm just so lucky. I always reverse engineer things, and that what they've done for my life, and how well that my friends have kept me grounded. I would hope to have done 1/100th of what they've done for me for them.
Oh, that's so beautiful. What would they say is your most annoying habit? Matt's gonna regret to be on this podcast.
My most annoying habit. The first thing they'd say is, "What? Just one? Can't we just share about 150 of them?" What would be my most annoying habit? Oh, I don't know. Contacting them when I least want me to. I'd need to contemplate that one for a little bit longer, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's very good. I don't think you really have some annoying habits. It's just something we want to make the audience feel more connected with you, Matt. Well, what would they say is your superpower? Yeah.
Some of them, Kristy, would probably say, well, me telling them to meditate, instead of having 10 beers. That would probably be it these days.
Well, but that's a good annoying habit. So what would they say is your superpower?
I've always been known as the organizer. Do you know and as much as I complain about it, I don't tell anyone this. I quietly love organizing everything. So whenever we, did trip away overseas, or we organize events or functions, as much as I say, oh, isn't anyone else going to do this? I love doing it. And yeah, that would probably be my superpower. Is I organise get-togethers, functions, all that sort of stuff.
Well, we all need a friend like you, Matt. So, what's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
What would be one thing? Oh goodness, is there any easy questions in this, Kristy? What would be the one thing? Most people don't know that I was born on Thursday Island, which is up in the Torres Straits. So that would be one thing that they'd be surprised to know about me. I guess the other thing is, the evolution of my life from being someone who was completely agnostic, and brought up in that environment, to someone that may have moved through, I guess, spirituality, to now understanding that for me, it's just about the energy of life, regardless of how you want to describe it. Yeah, so I've sort of moved back to the agnostic side, but also understanding quantum physics, and how we are all made of something that sits above us and has a greater understanding and a greater meaning.
Wow, thank you so much, Matt. I know the beginning is quite tough. I asked you a lot of hard questions, but that's the beauty about it, guys. It's all about authenticity. As you can tell, Matt has no idea what I'm gonna throw to him next. All right. So people
I
often
don't find it.
catch. All right. People often see success as an end result, the achievements, the awards, the books, the speaking, but those are usually the highlights. I'm interested in the chapters that shaped you. Who was Matt before all of this? What did success look like to
Yeah,
you when
it's
you
fun.
first became a coach?
That is a great question, and the way that you framed it too, Kristy, is really quite insightful, because a lot of this is about how we're conditioned through our education, and through our lives as young people, and we have this framework given to us of what success looks like, and quite a lot of the amazing things that I did get to do in life. At the time, I wasn't standing there loving it and enjoying it enough. I'm not saying I didn't do it. Success is actually. Have you heard this new thing? Because we remember we had lifespan, then we had health span. Remember that, how we went to, there's no living longer unless you're healthy, and then there's this new one called joy span.
Okay.
And it's about, well, and it's such, when you think about it, that was my first response. But oh, okay, another one. But I think the most important thing is actually to enjoy life when you're experiencing those things, rather than quickly moving to what do I need to do next to get this next experience. Actually sit in the experience that you're having, enjoy it. So when you talk about future success, and I run different programs. When you run a recovery program with people that are injured, mainly with psychological injuries, and you get someone text you or ring you and say, look, you saved my life or you've changed my life, that for me is success.
Mm.
In the
Wow.
past, if you would have asked me, and I don't just go past it and go, oh, look, I really appreciate the message. I actually sit in the joy of hearing that. And that was a technique that no one ever taught me. I had to teach myself.
Mm.
And unfortunately, this probably goes back to we learn in two ways, Kristy, right? We learn through either awareness or suffering.
Mm.
And I always use the analogy, your mum tells you, Matthew, don't put your hand on the hot plate. See, I was always the one, well, why would she tell me that? And I put my hand on the hot, okay. So I would like people not to learn when their hair color is my color, that they need to actually sit in the joy of moments. And that's what success is. When you
Mm.
have those moments where you do make achievements, regardless of how big or how small they are, sit in those moments and enjoy that moment.
Mm.
Share it with people around you that you care or love, make sure that they're enjoying it with you. Because then what happens is the let me go to the hormonal output is not just about you, it's about the people that share your space, and you start sharing that stuff and elevates it even more. So
Mm.
that's how I gauge success now, is making a difference to other people, but
Mm.
also making sure that that difference makes a difference to me.
Mm. I love that. Thank you so much, Matt. And I completely agree with you. As a coach myself, I feel the same way how you feel. And also when you said that's where make you feel fulfilled is some days some people said to you, thank you so much for what you did. That saved me, which is better than anything that you can receive as a gift in this world. Well, Matt, I do want to understand because of course, there was always a before and after version of us. There must be a shift somewhere happened in your story. So, what happened? Can you share a little bit about the story and what lessons that really teach you so that you can inspire others too?
Yeah, and I guess you've heard a little bit of this, Kristy, obviously, because I sort of condensed it into TED Talk.
Yes.
How challenging is that, trying to get all that information out in that amount of time? I'm a bit jealous. You did a better job than me, but I'm okay with that. I'm all right.
Oh, Matt.
um, I guess there was a point in my life where there was a negative convergence of a few things. I got the sack from a job that I loved. I had a relationship breakdown with someone I loved, and I got an autoimmune disease at the same time that which is called PMR, polymyalgia rheumatica. That I had, there's a lot of medication involved in and all that sort of thing, and that I guess that's the suffering. But when I actually went away and spent some time on my own, I cycled through the back blocks of Cambodia and was there I just learned a lot of lessons. First of all, I needed to change perspective on life. And that happened there. So people with nothing, smiling, coming out all day, thousands of people. I literally all day, hello, what's your name? All day writing, and being the only Caucasian person that some of them had ever seen, it was a really amazing experience. But it did make me reflect. I'm sitting there regretting and blaming other people for what happened to me. And it just made me, first of all, one, reflect on life itself, but then take responsibility. What can you take responsibility for here, Matt? And when I found out that I can take responsibility for what I was doing as a coach at that time in a job that I loved, taking responsibility for my health and for the relationship, that allowed me to learn a lot. Because when you blame someone else, it's not your fault. You
Yeah,
can't do anything about that, right?
that's right.
The second you take responsibility, and I thought maybe if I could just take 1% responsibility, but I actually found out I could take 100% responsibility for what went on. And when I got to that point, that's when learning happened. And then that's what I found, like all those learnings, this actually applies to 99% of the people I get to work with, in healing people from, psych injuries or physical injuries or getting organisations to operate functionally at a leadership level and a work workforce level, all those lessons are merged into this stuff, along with what I was able to learn from people that were also healing. So it was because when you actually start to, I'll use police as an example. Anyone who's in the police force for 10 years should get a PhD, because you don't, and I'll never say I understand that. I have a really good insight into what they actually do on a daily basis. And when you actually understand what they're exposed to, what they see, you can't get that out of a textbook. You can't get that in 15 years of university. And that the learning that you get from life and people that have experienced life like that. So I became very curious in exposing myself to people that have had all sorts of different experiences, from high level surgeons to military to doctors to police, all that sort of stuff. I wanted to learn about what they'd been exposed to so I could actually, one, improve my understanding of life, but also support people in doing that. And I found that the human side of that, particularly in the leadership side of things, Kristy, has had more impact. I put together all this stuff about culture development, purpose and value development, strategy. I found the human side of it in modern life more important than the strategic side of it, and understanding that your state as a leader has more impact than your knowledge does. Your ability to build relationships of substance is far more important than all the strategy and the timelines that you can put. I'm not saying they're not important, but I just find in modern life our access to knowledge is right here in front of us that can take 4 seconds. So I'm really grateful for the lessons that I've got.
Mm. I love that, Matt, and I completely agree with you. Just an example quickly, if you want to be a billionaire, you have to have the energy to run day-to-day life. So if you have a broke, how to say, like you go broke energy, it's unlikely you can do billionaire stuff, right? So everything comes from inside of you before it turns out with the great result outside of you, around you. So you're definitely right, Matt. I love all the things you share so far. So this next question I want to ask is, one of the things I admire about your story is that some of your greatest lessons didn't come through victory. They came through adversity. You coached at the highest level of sport, yet some of your biggest breakthroughs happened through personal challenges. Can you tell us about that chapter?
Yeah, and again, I kind of shared it a little bit already, and I learned so much from having a curious mind in elite sport. Definitely, I needed to learn a lot. And my initial approach was to serve my athletes better. I needed to be smarter, and that was false. I got, not that having a curious mind and learning more, that's a great thing. It's not only a good thing for the athletes I was coaching, it's super healthy. But the learning was, what I shared with there before, Kristy, is about the importance of human connection. It's the biggest cause of longevity on the planet. It's more than anything, but it's also the biggest cause of relationship development. It's the biggest cause of high performance. There's no high performance on the planet that does it on their own. There's no, and I'm not talking about just in sport. I'm talking about as someone, as a mum, someone as a CEO, as someone as a director, or you can't achieve a lot. And this is how we're designed as a species. We have to do things collectively. And that was, for me, the biggest learning is that instead of me learning more, what I had to do was learn off the people I was coaching, learn off the people I had on my staff, and make sure that that wisdom that they had was being shared equally across the whole organisation. But my programming as a young person coming through is that you have to know more. To share more, you have to know more. And unfortunately, that is slightly flawed. Because it's, and particularly where you've got to actually know the people that you're trying to share information with, right? So if I've got a group of young men in front of me and I show them this amazing video of a strategic approach and I go, does everyone understand this? you know that no one's going to say, no, I don't understand it. Can you explain it again? They're all going to sit there and go, yes, yeah, I do. So I guess I had to learn through, like, all that I did was because I cared. I deeply cared for them. But my expression of care wasn't as useful as learning more about those individuals, learning more about how we could serve each other. And I'm finding that in business so much now.
Mm, so good, Matt. Well, it's all about showing understandings and all everything has two sides in this world. Everyone can have different opinions. The only reason to avoid that conflict is to respect with understandings. Once you understand about each other, it becomes, oh, that's how you get there. Like you will put down those judgmental tags or label and you say, actually, no, none of us is perfect. I used to not to know this. I just got to know it. So why should we judge each other when you just got to know it, right? So how did your health challenges change the way you viewed performance?
Again, your questions are great, by the way. Well, again, it was a little bit like the hand on the hot plate. I had to work, well, that didn't work. That approach didn't work. What's going to work here? What are the things that I need to do on a consistent basis to make sure that the organisations I'm going into, and there's this word that people are scared of these days, Kristy, and it's called profit. You know, we talk about performance, we talk about culture, we talk about values, but ultimately a business is there to make profit. That's how you serve people. That's a measure of that you are serving people and you're serving your people. And I guess that's what I had to learn is how do we make these organisations more functional, sorry, and how do we help them, serve in a better way so that they can actually make profit? Obviously, when I'm dealing with government agencies, it's a little bit different. We can really focus on the performance side of things, but it's all the same. It's coming up with approaches that engage people across the whole team, across the whole organization, that get them heading in the one direction. And I had to learn through my mistakes rather than through what I did well. And then I started to sit back and look at, well, how come this person has had so much success over an extended period of time and they don't know as much as me? How could that happen? And then you start to look at, well, that person knows all their team's birthdays, knows how old their kids are, what school they go to. Surely, Matt, it can't be that easy. It can't be that simple. There's got to be a bit. No, it is that simple.
I love that. I love that. I mean, right now, I completely find resonating with everything you're saying because in leadership, that is something people overthinking. They're overthinking about they need to do this or that, but it's like, sure, that's how simple it is. Well, that's
But
exactly, yeah,
so can I ask you a question there, Kristy? Right.
yeah.
So, we're working together, right? And I come in and I go, okay, the science behind this is blah, blah, blah. And I start firing out all this science, and that's going to actually elevate your performance. It'll make the whole team do better. But if I go and go, like, so it's your birthday tomorrow. So is there anything really I could get for you? And or oh, your son, I heard was ill last week. How they get, like, even if I start the conversation that way, which person are you going to trust the most? Which person do you feel safest with? Which person are you going to perform best for? The first person that showed up there and had all this stuff that they know could make you better, or this other one that actually started the conversation showing care for you? Which one are you going to work
Well,
for?
I definitely think in the short term, people will go to the first one because they want some success. But in the long term, if you want to keep your team staying with you, everybody will stay with the second person, which is what I'm doing as well for my team. They don't leave me since my company is only 4.5 years old. But I've been in the industry for more than 20 years. And what I found that one of the things I did really well is that they just gonna stay with me forever because I don't just know them and I care about everything about them. Thanks, Matt, for that question. And I think definitely the demonstration was awesome that people can understand the difference between such a small thing. Yeah.
Mm. And it's not hard, but what tends to happen in modern life, we're immersed in complexity. We want a complex answer to a question, and we actually know the simple, easy question, right? You already knew that. You didn't go, I never thought of that, Matt. You already knew that. It's just what we have to do a lot of the times is to remind people what they already know. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, there's a place for that science, there's a place for the in-depth strategic approach to execute at the highest level. I'm not saying get rid of all that and just let's hold hands and you know
And
skip,
get married.
skip around the circle, but people aren't going to hear you unless they trust you.
Yeah. It's a
And
connection. Yeah.
yes, that's it. That's it. And I don't see a lack of knowledge as being a big impactor on businesses as far as
Mm.
their performance. I see, like so many of the businesses I go into, is a lack of connection.
And trust. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the main thing. And that's the foundation. People underestimate that's the only thing you need to fix. When you fix the trust and connection, everything can work out its way. We're not lacking any knowledge nowadays, but we're lacking the interconnection and trust. When that is put into place, everything will really become so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like what, as soon as I hear that you say you all your staff are still with you, it's so interesting now. Like I work with a recruitment company, and it's almost like for some people, oh, you've had the same job for 10 years. What's wrong with you? And that used to be an asset. Now it's like people do tend to jump around a bit. So the fact that you're able to keep the same team together for me is an indicator. Well, it's not an indicator. I know immediately they trust you.
Yeah, majority of the team, of course, what I'm saying, 90% the major high level guys. True, Matt. And that's why I'm very passionate about leadership as well. And I'm also advocate for the human interconnection, as you could tell from my talk there too. All right, next question I have for you. I know you already shared all the stories about you and pretty much. And for those who are interested to discover more about Matt, you can search Matt Elliott TEDx talk, TED talk, and also his books. It will be everywhere. It's easy to find. But I do want to just deep dive a little bit more about this question. What broke the old version of Matt? I know you shared a little bit about you went to Cambodia, but is there anything else you want to share with us?
What broke the old version? Well, obviously what I've already shared, but reality broke me. That's what broke me is that I wasn't dealing with reality. I was lying to myself. And because I wasn't an expert in myself, I use this quite a lot. We're experts in what we do, the places we go, the work we've got, the hobbies we have, our children. And I always ask people, how much expertise do you have in yourself? How much time do you spend on yourself a day to go, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What's going on in my life? Like if people don't spend 5 minutes a day on themselves to ask really simple questions. And when you don't have that expertise in yourself and people start asking you about yourself, you just make stuff up. It's the truth. Well, not because I was
So
lying, but
true.
I don't know. So I'm not going to say I don't know myself. And no one takes, look, I can tell you that, when I do work with elite people and executives at a high level and even politicians at a high level and athletes, that's my first thing. How much expertise do you have in yourself? Because I learn off the late Wayne Dyer, who I love so much and had the opportunity to spend time with. He always says if you want to sell orange juice, you need oranges. Yeah, right. So if you want to love someone, you've got to love yourself. If you want to inspire someone, you've got to be inspired by who you are. You can't
First.
give away what you
Yes.
don't have.
Yeah.
And that was a really quite a profound lesson for me. And I had no expertise in myself. So it was that situation made me turn inwards to go, I need to learn about who Matt is. And that was a really like I had to show some vulnerability to myself in that. I had to stop, I had to call myself out, going, look, mate, you got to stop being dishonest with yourself. Yeah. How you going, Matt? I'm fine. No, you're not. You're not.
Well, I'm laughing because fine is the worst word you could ever hear. You're either great or you're not.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's laughable now that Like, how simple is that? How simple is that thing? There's how much expertise do you have in yourself? You don't need to go to university. You don't even need to go to school. You just need to spend less than 5 minutes a day asking yourself just simple questions. How am I going? Why am I going this way? What do I want? What do I need to do? Just
Yeah.
imagine that. You just ask those 4 questions every day. Eventually, you'd be surprised what you come up with.
Yeah. You get to know yourself more and understand your own feelings and everything. When you can be more self-controlled, then it's easier for you to control things around you because the only thing you can control is yourself. You really cannot control much around you unless you start with inside of you, which is amazing. Yeah.
Well, that's for me the biggest cause of high performance, the biggest cause of people recovering in the programs that we run, the biggest cause of turning organizations around, self-awareness. It all starts with that. Of course, we all understand what lack of self-awareness can do.
Yeah, very true. Matt, I really appreciate your vulnerability and everything just you shared just now, because I'm sure right now the audience who are watching, there were some people, especially, like those similar background or age or those people that they didn't even have a chance to ask themselves those questions. And knowing that right now you're so successful on where you are, but they didn't know that you actually had the same feeling, the same past that people are quite right now they're suffering or they're going through. So thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate those vulnerability and the true stories. Now the next question is you recently delivered a TEDx talk called the Tormentor whilst the Mentor. I'm so honored, by the way. I'm sharing the same stage as you, Matt. The moment I heard that title, I thought,
Likewise.
thank you. The moment I heard that title, I thought every single person listening has experienced both. So tell us, what is Tormentor? Share a little bit and also the more with the audience who missed that talk at this stage.
Yeah, I think it's the voice, it's our internal voice that kind of sits in here, and sometimes we want to move it to here. But the tormentor is, and I'll explain it very quickly. The human brain is wired 3.1 to 1 to see threat over joy. And for very good reason, because as a species, we're the best hunter-gatherer on the planet, but we're not the strongest or the fastest. So we had to be cautious, right? We didn't go flying out our caves and you going, yeah, we had to be cautious, and we're still cautious now. When we cross the road, we have to look left and right. So that caution can sometimes in our head go, oh, wow, God, how long is Kristy going to go with this interview? And what does you know what I need to do? And why? How can you ask me that question? Like if you weren't that lack of self-awareness, we've all had that voice inside our head, right? Where, oh my God, this person, can they just shut up or whatever it is, right? So that's your tormentor. And what I call the loud fan, the person that you didn't pay to go and see at a game, but up there screaming at the ref and abusing the opposition and all that sort of stuff. So there are tools that you can implement that don't take long, sometimes less than 60 seconds, that no one even knows you're doing. And again, I learned all this through the military and the police of stuff that they have to do when they're in real time, things that leaders can do and all of us can do in real time when that tormentor shows up, so that we can access our mentor, that inner wisdom that we all have, and the more life that you experience, the more wisdom you get.
Yes.
And when I mean that, that's not necessarily an age thing. We all know people that have experienced a lot in life very early in life. So that wisdom, we don't access it enough. The quiet coach, as I call it. We don't go on internally. Exactly what I said there before is, what the hell is going on? Why am I feeling this way? How do I want to feel? Again, all that stuff, that's your mentor that's sitting right there. You've got this internal knowledge that, in library, that so many of us don't go to. We're always looking outside ourselves. And that the outside yourself, your tormentor doesn't care what's outside you. And that's why the tormentor is screaming, by the way, because it cares. That voice that is going, oh, what's going on and how come? And I'm sick of this. And, oh, I can't, why has this happened to me again? This is, it's only doing that because you care. Because if you didn't care, it wouldn't do it. It'd go, oh, well,
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's just making sure that you reframe your care in a way that serves you, not loads you.
Mm. And you just
So,
need to. Mhm.
yeah.
I want to share that I saw some amazing comments after your TEDx talk was uploaded to a TED channel. Someone say thank you so much. I saw someone repost your things as well, which is
Oh, okay.
beautiful. I
Yeah, it is
love
like
I
that.
love the fact that you demonstrate it in a very nice way because most of people will really think they're a bad person when the tormentor came out to show up, like shouting, screaming. But you said in a graceful way that it's true that we care. If we don't care, we won't even feel that way. It's really just about to calm that the other side down so that then the mentor can play more role and more wisdom will come up as well. So I want to ask one question here. So when does the tormentor show up most? Like from your experience?
Well, that's a personal thing, isn't it? But it is. And, some people I work with so many people with PTSD, right? And it's what can trigger them. And it's always the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's never one incident, but some of the most inane things can trigger them, that you wouldn't even think would be possible. So it is a really personal thing. What I've found, and can I use the loud fan as an example?
Yeah.
As I did in the TED talk, if you let that loud fan go, and you're going to try and ignore them, and then you go to them with 5 minutes to go in the game. Can you please sit down? Well, I can tell you that they're probably not going to go, okay, sorry about that. But if
They
you,
go loud.
yeah, they'll be like, ah. But if you deal with it straight away, same as that voice in your head, if you go, no, 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 I'm not going to be doing that. Can you please sit down? If you do that inside yourself, that's step one. I'm starting to get upset here. That's fine, but here's an interesting thing, particularly emotionally. You're in an emotional state 24/7. Even if you know, you go and get an operation and you get completely zonked out, right? You're still in an emotional state, even
Yeah.
when you're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay, stop that. But now you've got to replace it. So I'm not going to feel sad. I'm not going to get upset. So how are you going to feel? What are you going to replace it with? That's going to be useful to you. That loads me. How am I going to lift me?
Mm.
So it's because if you don't use that care, it'll use you. And
Mm.
it's the biggest cause of yucky stuff on the planet, death and disease, what they call stress, mental health. So you just got to be conscious that most people have those conditions because they care.
Mm. True.
Wow. No one ever explains it to them that way. So let's reframe that care.
Mm.
You can't just say stop it because you've
Mm.
got to replace it with something. So what are you going to replace it with? Now, I'll say what you've probably heard me say this, Kristy, but I like to make your listeners aware of this, is
Mm.
that it's easier to sit on the lounge than it is to exercise. It's easier to go and get some takeaway food than cook a healthy home cooked meal. It's far easier to be angry than it is to be inspired or happy, right? So I'm not telling you what we just shared is easy. Just stop feeling that way. Stop expressing you care that way and do that. But the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it. Don't wait for that to come up. Try and practice feeling the way you want to feel on a consistent basis. And that's not a peak experience. That's not in a state of love and joy the whole time. That's a peak experience. You
Mm.
can't run as fast as you can all day, right?
Yeah.
So they're peak physical experiences. So you want to know what your default state's going to be. So for me personally, I like being calm and relaxed and happy. They're not peak states.
Mm.
When we're presenting, for example, Kristy, you can't be in a calm and relaxed state. Hey, hey everyone, thanks for coming along to the
I
TED
love
talk.
that.
You had to be in a peak state, didn't you?
That's so funny, Matt.
Yeah, but people don't get it until you explain it in a way. They
That's
go, "Oh,
very
okay."
good. Very
Uh,
good.
so yeah, and you had to be in your peak state, didn't you, when you were up there on that stage?
Yeah.
You wanted to engage people, so you had to be elevated emotion. I'm just saying, know where you want to be most of the time and know what you want to replace that care with, that misdirected care, that tormentor care, to a mentor care.
Mm. Very good, very good. I love that. So one more question, Matt, regarding the tomato thing. How do we know when we are listening to fear versus wisdom?
Self-awareness.
Mm.
And we all know the feeling. Just pay attention to yourself. That's all. And I was taught as a young person, emotions were weak. Suck it up, have a cup of concrete and harden up. Don't, and emotions aren't bad. There's no bad emotions. They're just signals. You
Mm.
know, I always use this analogy, Kristy, like, what would you do if you're walking along and you got a rock in your shoe? What do you do? What do you do?
Well, rock your shoe.
If you got a rock in your shoe, you take it out.
Just
You
take it
feel,
out. Yeah.
yeah, well, what if you ignore it? Your body goes,
It will be
discomfort
there
didn't
forever. Yeah. Yeah.
discomfort didn't work. I'll try pain. Oh, you're going to
Mm.
ignore pain. Agony will get your attention. That's all
Mm.
emotions are. They're an emotional
Helping you.
signal.
Yeah.
You're frustrated. No, but
Mm.
I'm not gonna bow to that. So your body goes, frustration didn't work. Let's try anger. Are you going to ignore anger? Rage. The next thing you're screaming, ah. So that's all they are. Is that all? So to answer your question is pay attention to the signals that your body's giving you.
Mm.
That's all you need to do. And when you have that expertise in yourself, and we'll use frustration as an example. Why am I feeling frustrated here? Okay, or I feel like I'm not quite getting my point across. What's a better way of expressing that? Well, maybe that I can show that care by being inspired by this conversation. I'm using
Mm.
this as an example, but you have to replace it with something. You can't just go stop feeling frustrated.
Mm.
It
Very true.
that does not work. So you stop it. What are you going to start? I'm going to start feeling this way.
Mm, very good, Matt. I love that. I've been also reading a lot of books about emotions, and that's one of the most powerful thing you can use in life. If you don't turn that to your friends, it will become your enemy, which I
Mhm.
don't think is a wise idea. So, because of the time, I do have a lot of questions. I'm just gonna ask a few more so that hopefully we can get next time sitting together or even in person in the future to the podcast. So, Matt, one of the biggest myths in leadership is that strong people shouldn't need help. That's what they think. I think that's one of the most dangerous beliefs we can carry. So, let me ask you, when was a moment in your life where Matt Elliott needed a coach, not as a coach, as a human being?
And again, can I just congratulate you on what you said there? And I'll actually reinforce what you said. Strong people know they need help. It's weak people, and I've done that, who think they don't need help. So because it takes strength to get it. I'm so lucky that I've got one key mentor in my life, but a few mentors in my life, a couple younger than me and a couple older than me. But having someone that you can have open conversations with and go, look, I believe that 90% of the answers that you need are in here. Okay, I really do. Is you just ask yourself that question.
Yes.
I go to some CEOs and business owners that get me in. They never get me in because things are going well, um, and because they didn't have that early strength that you talked about. And they'll tell me a story, and I always do this every time, Kristy. I go, so if your best friend came in and told you exactly what you told me, what would you tell them?
They
And they
find out
go,
their own answer.
and then they give me the answer, and I go, what are you paying me for? You actually know the answer. So, the first thing is obviously pay attention to yourself, but there's going to be times where you don't know the answer.
Mm,
And for me as a person, I've got friends, and I call them mentors. So I'll let them know I'm calling you as a mentor today. I need a hand with this. And
mm,
I ask them questions. That covers most of it. And I've also gone and got, clinical support from a psychiatrist just to, so what do you think's going on inside me there to make me feel that way? I would say for me, that probably accounts for 2% of what I needed at the time. But I try and tell people, why not focus on the 90% first? Why not get that 90% out of yourself? and then top it up with those mentors. The good thing about having mentors is it's a two-way street most of the time. You're helping them as well, particularly if you're in a leadership position. So it is a two-way street. It's not just about finding someone to pay. It's someone you trust and you know that you can have any conversation with. Yeah, so I would suggest that that's probably the strength of, being able to go and find people that can help you and serve you.
Yeah, very good, very good. So was it difficult asking for help? Because that's one of the things stopped many people.
I found it difficult, yes. And again, a lot of it because of my conditioning. You
Mm.
can probably tell by my hair color and my gender and my accent that we weren't taught to actually go and seek support. Whereas some other cultures, it's just a part. That's why
Mm.
people live longer in other cultures. That's true. It's true. It's the biggest cause of longevity on the planet is human connection.
Mm.
But in other cultures, old people aren't put in homes. They're brought into the house to help look after the children, and so they feel significant, but also they get to share their life experiences, not out of a textbook, out of life experience. So I think that is something that I had to overcome to go and. So I found it super difficult at first, and now, I always tell people this, like, would you just ring up a friend and ask them for support? And I'm a bit reluctant, and I always reverse engineer it again. Well, what would you do if that friend rang you and asked you for support? Would you say no? They go, no,
Yeah.
I'll do it straight away. Well, they would do it straight away as well.
Yeah, very
You
true.
know, get over that conditioning. It's not helpful to us.
Mm, very good, Matt. I love that. Again, I love that moment we said, what you paid for. You already find your own answer. That was really funny, but it's so true.
I honestly do that every time someone dumps
Mm,
their story on me. I go, oh, it's really because I just want them to turn inwards first.
mm, mm, mm,
It's not as though they've just wasted their money, but it's just trying to make them understand
mm,
the wisdom that they have right there.
mm. Very good. I really love that. Okay. Because of time, I still have a few more questions. I think your tormentor is shouting right now. That's what you
No,
said. Okay.
no, it's not.
All right. One thing I'm deeply passionate about is interdependence, not dependence, not proving we can do everything ourselves, but recognizing that we become stronger through connection. So let me ask you something. Can somebody reach their full potential completely alone?
No,
Shoot.
and that's a short answer, but have a look at us as a species. Now there may be an 0.000001 exception to the rule, but let's deal with the 99.999% of the human species. We
Mm,
are designed, when we lived, again, I'll go back to caves. When we lived in caves, if we were on our own, we were likely to become food. Right?
true.
If we were around people we trusted and loved and in a safe environment, we were likely to get food.
Yes.
And while that's changed significantly, people can live on their own now and have a sustained life. But that life, are they happy without having people around them? That some people, again, some people like the solitude, but we are designed to be in human connection, and you can't achieve the extraordinary. Even individual athletes, as an
Mm,
example, they need a
mm,
team.
yeah. Yeah.
And so my answer to that is the rule. Yes, we need to actually collaborate to be our best selves, not just the best organisation. For you to be at your best, Kristy, you need people around you that you love and care for.
Very true. Well, I do want you to share one more thing. What is the biggest misconception people have about coaching?
That the coach has the answers. And the reason I say that, and I always say to people, if I tell you something that you don't already know, I've let you down. I just need to remind you of because like all this stuff that we just discussed then, Kristy, did you go, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. It's just sometimes you have to explain things in a way that people go, yeah, well, I do already know that, but I'm not doing it. Well, does it make sense for you to do it? So that's for me the most important aspect of that.
Mm, very good. Do coaches need coaches?
Yes,
Mm.
yeah, and I think it's because just say you and I, we're working together. Okay, imagine like the exchange of understanding and perspective. We may not have the same perspective or understanding, but I love that type of interaction because you know what? I'm selfish. I grow from that, like the other
Mm.
person will as well.
Mm.
But we're being so coaches definitely need coaches.
Yeah, I love that, Matt, because Olympic athletes have coaches as well. We all need each other. And elite teams have coaches, yet many business leaders still believe they should somehow figure everything out alone, which is really sad. But so, okay, I have a lot of more questions here, but I think because of time, I'm gonna go directly to the change room. So I love the name the change room because every sporting team has one, but life has one too. Sometimes we walk into it broken, sometimes confused, sometimes lost, and somehow we work out transformed. For someone listening right now who feels trapped in a difficult chapter, what would you tell them?
So if I use the change room analogy again, is that would you like to get better, Kristy, in some way, shape, or form?
Of course.
Well, you can't get better and stay the same. You need to change.
Exactly.
So it's about because we can be resistant to change because change is very awkward and it's very hard to sustain, right? So it's first of all understanding that change is something that if you want to get better, you need to embrace. Now the other thing is to do that. I use change rooms as an analogy when I take people. We do a lot of our stuff in sports stadiums, right? That whether it be an artist, whether it be a rugby player, whether it be an Olympic athlete, all right, they don't just go into change rooms and change their clothes. They have to change who they're being. So I always, the the musician, the lead guitarist of a band doesn't walk down the street doing this, right? They go in, they change their clothes, they put the guitar on over their shoulder. A footy player can't dip their shoulder into someone in the fruit and veggie aisle in Woolworths, right? They don't just change their clothes, they have to change who they're being.
Identity, yeah. Identity
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you need to look at. Is your identity holding you back? And because your identity has changed from when you were 5 to 10 to 15 to 25. So don't be resistant to that.
Mm.
Understand that change is a part of your evolution. And if you want to get better, you need to change.
Mm.
Equally, if you want to get worse, you'll need to change as well.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street, but we obviously want to focus on, taking them in a direction of changing their identity, stepping outside themselves
Mm.
and understanding that when they come out of that change room, they can be a person of growth.
Yeah, I love that so much because I found even when I was the old version of myself, we were quite very sensitive when it comes to what you mean you want me to change. You want to be inauthentic, but that's not the truth. If you want to change to be something else, you have to change or you can't become something else. It's a process. Okay, so Matt, I do want to, before we finish, I'd love to ask a bigger question. Imagine we are sitting here 30 years from now. People are talking about Matt, not your achievements, not your books, not your TEDx talk, not your coaching career, just your impact. What would you hope they say?
Matt made sense rather than nonsense. Um, and I say that because I've had all this knowledge and it's come out as nonsense because and when I say so, when you think about that, I'll slow it down. Nonsense is that's my new gift. Is I give people access to stuff by making it understandable, not through trying to sound smart, which is what I used to do, but through things that are accessible. And all I'm doing most of the time is reminding you of what you already know. I'm just doing it in a way that makes sense to you.
That's beautiful, Matt. And that was so rhyming. Okay, so what advice would you give to the leader, every leader outside there, when they start doing from this week, from this interview onwards?
You could have sent these questions out, Kristy. All right, I'm going to give you a quote that a player I coached who's passed, so I pay respects, Danny, to that. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Wow, that's amazing. Bravo. Okay, now the next challenge before we finish the show. Matt, if somebody listening today could remember only one sentence from everything you've shared, what would you want that sentence to be?
Become an expert in yourself.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Run a pause, run a pause. Oh, the team's gonna add all these claps and everything. That's beautiful. Matt, thank you so much. One of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation is because your story challenges one of the biggest myths in leadership. The myth that success is something they think we can achieve alone. What I appreciate most about your work is that you've shown us another path, a path where performance and well being can coexist, a path where vulnerability becomes strength, a path where growth happens through support, coaching, mentorship, and connection. The world often celebrates independence, but the highest performers in sport, business, and life understand something deeper. They understand interdependence. They understand that we become stronger together than we could do alone. And perhaps that's where true greatness begins. Matt, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you for helping people move from their tormentor to their mentor. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Matt.
I had a ball. Thanks, Kristy.
And just before we finish this podcast, Matt, tell the audience where you prefer to be connected, just so that they can find you.
I'd love for you to contact us at hello@thechangeroom.info. And we also have you can go to our website, which actually breaks into three things, which is performance, recovery, and sports performance. If you wanted to come and visit us, it's www.atthechangeroom.info. And I love supporting people, so that would be a gift.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you.